Welcome to Shut Up and Sit. I'm Yedda a consciousness coach and consultant. I'm on a mission to bring mindfulness to the modern world. Each week, we will offer ancient healing practices, real-world examples, and the latest research in neurobiology and behavior change into fun conversation that invites you to wake up your highest self. Now, let's go shut up and sit. All right, welcome back, everybody. So glad to be here, so excited, so grateful. Really grateful also because we're going into a deeper dive further into gratitude. Our last episode was with wonderful Willie. And so I'm just so glad to be back here and to talk to you more. Of course, Yedda here, just me today. I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive. You had Willie on the last episode, and I just love that you probably heard the episode. And Willie walks in the room, and everybody's like, Willie! And he just brings a smile to everybody's face. And hopefully by now I'm bringing a smile to your face on some of this content, some of this work. And I have a smile on my face today because I just can't believe, I was just talking to Robin, I was like, I can't believe we are so far into this. I mean, we were just talking over, 47, 48, almost 50 videos and audio versions of all this teaching put together. It just blows my mind. I'm so grateful for all the people that have helped to bring Shut Up and Sit to life, and my work and the movement. And, this is not of my stuff. And Rob and I were talking about this too, what's your IP? What's your intellectual property? What's your unique? You know what my value proposition is? I'm just bringing this out here to the world. I want everybody to shut up and sit, to wake up, to do the work to bring their best selves out into the world. I want to live in a life full of gratitude, where people are full of gratitude all the time, even being grateful. A few episodes back, you might have heard Stuart talking about being grateful even for the suffering. But can we cultivate a social norm of gratitude? That's really my mission, my goal here for all of us. And that takes a little bit of work. We have to learn. You've been through this whole journey with me. We're in the last chapter of the book. It's all coming together. Even if you feel like it's not, or you're different parts of the journey, I promise you, keep going back, keep reviewing, keep checking things out. You are growing and evolving and learning just by shutting up and sitting down and being here in this experience. And so today we're going to go into the cultivating, really the 5 prompts that I learned on cultivating gratitude. And in this chapter, we have a phenomenal TED Talk. And I was actually showing Robin part of this before we started this episode. And this TED Talk is just phenomenal, by a filmmaker who does time-lapse photography. And it's linked in the resources tools for WOW here. It's in the book. And I love him because he really helped me connect. And I love teaching, but I also love bringing the other experts in the room. I love digital technology and the platform that we're in now in a digital world. I don't have to be the expert in all things. There are tons of experts out there. We all have wisdom, even you. Even if you don't think you do, I promise you, you do have wisdom. And my goal, my IP is, can we just bring everybody's wisdom out? And it's like cafeteria style. I'll pick from yours and eat from yours and somebody else's, and then you might take mine. And we're all just kind of helping feed each other and bringing that wisdom out into the world. And that's a world that lives in a place of gratitude, because we see value in all of existence, all of life, all of human beings. And this TED Talk and giving my clients visuals as well as written and worksheet and right brain, left brain, poetry, mindfulness practices, you've been hearing all of them along the way. But I offer different types of learning tools and skills and resources because we all learn differently. You might be a visual learner. You might be an auditory learner. You might be someone who likes to write and read, to highlight. Whatever your journey is, I also designed this entire course in this curriculum and the work I do with clients to meet people where they are. And so my work is very much almost like a chameleon, if you will, where I will ask people who they are, understand what their patterns and thoughts and behaviors and beliefs are, and then help them according to their beliefs, their patterns, their strengths, to create their own customized journey and way of learning. And so you're going to find a little bit of everything in here as far as a learning style goes, but I love the TED Talks because I'm a visual learner. I love pictures, images. You might have heard me talk on the last episode about or a couple back about having the photographic memory. So visual for me, when I can see something literally externally or even internally in my own mind's eye, I can hold on to it. And so this TED Talk, I love this. And so this is what Robin and I are talking about. The filmmaker said that when people see his images, they will say, oh my God. And he breaks down what that means. And he talks about the O is you're placing your attention on it. And my is it touches something in my soul inside of my own being. And God for him is the journey that we're all on. And I love that description of, oh my God, because when things take our breath away and say, oh my God, we really are being mindful. We're coming into being placing our attention on something right here, right now that is touching us, that is also expanding us beyond something and to something greater than ourselves, which does ultimately connect us. And that's what gratitude does. So he has this phenomenal TED Talk. And another thing I love in this episode and in the TED Talk related to this chapter, he says, we protect what we fall in love with. And that's so powerful for me as I think about that. If I don't love something, do I protect it? And so when I watch documentaries or movies or episodes or shows, or I'm out in the world and I'm interacting with people, and before I started my shutting up and sit practice, I didn't know how to love myself. If you go all the way back to my original, very first episode, now that I'm thinking about, maybe I should go back and watch it just to see the evolution and the progression. And I remember not knowing. If you remember, I went to the therapist and I'm like, I just need to know what love is. Can you give me a book, a schematic? And, and I laugh now because I think that man probably went home and told his wife, you're never going to believe what my client came in and asked me today. And now I know the answer to that question, what love is. And how I answer that is total attention without judgment. And that means I now have cultivated through shutting up and sitting, through mindfulness, through learning about my behaviors and all of the ways, the workings in this course, in this book, have allowed me to really connect with mindfulness, the bridge, to sit down and to pay attention to myself without judgment. And when I pay attention to myself without judgment, I can show up with kindness. And when I show up with kindness, remember, that's the definition of mindfulness, is showing up and paying attention on purpose, without judgment, but I'm going to switch it, with kindness, so we can start to focus on what we're actually creating. That's gratitude. Kindness is gratitude. And so gratitude is so important in cultivating that. But for me, when I think about what he said, we protect what we fall in love with. And I thought, I never learned to protect myself in a healthy way with loving kindness and joy and equanimity and compassion. Because you know what? I never learned those skills. And now I can sit with myself in silence. And if I have a rough day, or if I wake up and things are off and I want to go down the negative track of you shoulda, coulda, woulda, whatever, cognitive distortion, I can pull myself back, pay attention, put some attention on what is working. And gratitude allows us to pivot out of that negativity bias. But here's the thing, you all, we have to have some silence and stillness of attention first, so that we can pattern interrupt, shut up, sit, stop, and go, right here, right now. This might feel hard and look hard, and I might be tempted to go down the negative path. I also have a choice to sit down and talk about all of the grateful things that I am grateful for, all of the things that I want to put down that will help me to pivot and go the other way. Now, today's episode and this lesson is about the 5, right? The 5 ways that we can cultivate gratitude, the 5 prompts, if you will. And if you remember way back when we talked about positive versus negative thinking, here's a reminder. It takes 5 times as many positive experiences, thoughts, words to lay the same neural pathway and network in your brain as one negative. Meaning, when I say neural networks and pathway, what fires together and wires together is what's creating your human behavior. So if you have a bad experience and you focus on the negative, one negative, it's going to take 5 positives to get you to offset that one negative. And that's part of our brain. We're wired to have a negativity bias, to be in a protective mode. But as our expansion of consciousness is rising in the world and our awareness is expanding, what's happening is we're now realizing the value. We have to cultivate patterns and habits and ways of being that are giving us great gratitude first and having us have gratitude prompts, if you will. We have to learn this stuff. So, I talked about before, we're born with enoughness. We are. But we're not necessarily raised in homes that pattern us with a gratitude prompt or a habit loop or some type of way of showing up to see the glass half full versus half empty. And if you're one of those people and you say, well, I've been half empty my whole life, well, that's just because you hold a belief that that's how you show up in the world. Someone taught you a patterned way to look at the glass half empty, not half full. That's it. You can learn a new way. You can learn a habit loop of being grateful. You could learn how to see the glass half full. And so sometimes, for me, and I think about this work, and Robin and I were also talking about how many videos we've done and the number of hours that I've been sitting here and recording other things plus the show. And honestly, sometimes I do get in comparing mine. I'm like, oh, I see so-and-so doing this, or social media influencers doing that, or quality of this. And it's natural. It's human for us to compare ourselves and say, my stuff is it just as good, or is it better, or is it not? Or that's always going to be a part of being human. And so sometimes when I sit down and I wonder, is this ever going to work? Is anybody going to listen to what I have to say? Does the world really find value in my work? Which is totally normal. And if you're going to sit here and say to myself or someone else, Yedda, I never ever think that anything about me is not good enough. I'm actually going to call bullshit on that. We all have an inner critic. We all have a voice inside that worries about something, somehow, somewhere. Okay. And so if you want to tell me you don't, maybe you're one of the rare people in the world that has all your shit figured out. And if so, then you probably wouldn't be here, and you certainly wouldn't have hung till the very end of the book. So let's just be really, really, really in a place of gratitude to be vulnerable and real with ourselves and say, I could probably do a little bit better on being grateful. And so now for me, when that inner critic comes up and she's like, oh my gosh, you've got all this time, energy, and money, and you're building all this, and what if it doesn't work out? I just calm her down. I invite her to sit down. That's just my ego. That's just your ego talking. And it's just a small wounded sense of self that I invite back to the table, and I ask her to talk to me. And then I pivot. So in coaching, we talk about this pivot. I pivot her to, so what's working well? And all of a sudden, that's where I start working through my gratitude prompts. And this is true. You've got to train yourself, just like you would train your kids, your coworkers, your community, to see what's working well. In every situation, we can point out what we're thinking is not working or fears of what won't work. But I promise you, there is something that is working well. And so I sat down the other night and I thought, when I get into this inner critic language, I sat down and I thought, since all of this shut up and sit stuff was born for me, it was just an idea. I was coaching clients. I have created a coaching manual. And actually, I want to say we have created, because there has not been any of this work that I have done solo and alone, other than the suffering and the pulling this together in stacks and sheets of paper and like a mad woman all around my office. That's the only thing I did alone. And even then I wasn't alone, because I know there was an unseen spiritual component to my work. However, what I want you to know is we have written a workbook. We have written a 6x9 book. We have created an online course. And when I go down that list, we've done over 50, 60, I can't remember, Robin and I were just talking, it was probably 68 plus videos at this point. And all of the things that we have been doing in this movement, we've created a website, we've created a brand, the amount of information, when I see all the things we've done, and then I weigh that against something someone else has done, I look at that and I'm like, maybe they did do this, but look at all I'm learning. Look at where I'm able to be. Am I an expert or pro? Maybe not, but you know what? At least I can look at all that I've been doing. And here's the secret to the success on all of this. Yes, we're talking about coming out of habit loops and going into gratitude, is showing up. Just keep showing up. The people who do great things in this world, they quiet their fear-driven voices, but they keep showing up. They stay in the process of creating. So sometimes when people come to me and they're like, well, did you watch this? And did you know that this person's doing this on their show and they're rapping? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm just staying grateful for the moment that I'm in, which is right here, right now. And I'm following the feeling of gratitude. I'm following that sense of love for myself, for you all, the viewers, the listeners, the students, the corporate companies, the individuals, the community members, all of life that's having access to this. I am focusing on being grateful for that. And it's okay if I don't know. And it's okay if somebody else is doing it differently. I am tapped into the gratitude that I have for me and for my work and for my experience. And that's me protecting myself, because if I love myself and I protect what I love, then I won't beat myself up and then start running all over the place trying to change outfits and mask and voice and be something that I'm not. And ultimately, isn't that why we're doing all this work? When we talk about personal development, aren't we ultimately doing that to figure out who am I and how do I bring that out into the world so that it has value and worth and meaning? That's why we do this. So I don't want you to be a second-rate version of me or anyone else. I want you to be a first-rate version of yourself. That's why it's called personal development. It's personal and unique to you. So hopefully by now you've been doing this work and you're starting to peel away the layers to remove the barriers to come back home to the truth of the whole and the good, loving person that you are deep down, and you are falling in love with him or her. And you are talking to him or her in kind words and with gratitude and acknowledging there is more right with you than there is wrong. And that's true for everyone and everything on the planet. Okay. Now that I've kind of taken you there, and I want to get really serious with that for a second because it's important. This is why I do this work and why I hope that you're continuing to do this. I want to lead you into now we've fallen in love with ourselves. And you know what? It's a lifelong journey. You're going to keep falling in love with you over and over and over again. And you're going to cultivate these capacities to be grateful, and kind of sliding some of my book stuff over here. And I actually have it written down. It's in a worksheet section in here for you. And I talk about in this chapter all the different ways to be grateful. So you can buy yourself a journal. Sometimes I have journals I give clients, my shut up and sit journals. And this is now, why we're writing five things every day that we're grateful for. Now, originally when I first started doing gratitude work, and this was way back in the day, and I think Oprah was probably one of the ones that launched the gratitude journal. I would be like, I love my house, I love my car, I love my life, I love my dog. Like I would just write all the things that I loved. I thought that was gratitude, which in the beginning it can be for you. And then what I found was I was writing the same thing every day. And I wasn't really expanding outside of the things I loved. And I certainly wasn't writing anything I loved about myself. And if I did, it was very egoic. If I got to, because I remember getting to a point where, okay, now I'm going to talk about what I love. Well, I love my hair, and I love my fitness, and so it was all about these physical attributes. I never once, until I learned to shut up and sat down, could I learn to say, I love that I'm human. I love that sometimes I'm scared. I love that I know how to now parent and nurture myself. I love that I now know how to take care of my needs when they're not being met. I love that I'm able to ask for what I want in a way that inspires people to want to meet my needs. So this is the evolution that you'll continue to get to as you cultivate gratitude. And so I was actually in a 2-year meditation teacher training program. And again, I'm not kidding when I say all of my work in here and in this whole course and book is a compilation of all the wisdom that I've been experienced and had exposure to. And one of the ladies, who's a very well-known psychotherapist up in Northern Virginia, big in integrative embodiment, mind-body work. And she came in, taught a lesson, and she actually taught on these 5 prompts. And I thought, that's fascinating. So of course they're cited in the book and given credit, but she had found them from another teacher. And I thought this was so great because I never thought about teaching prompts for gratitude. It's a gratitude journal. You write down what you're happy for. And that's what gratitude meant to me. What I was happy for that somebody gave me or did for me, or that I did or gave. And so I'm going to walk you through these. So if you have a pen or paper, grab that, have it handy. If you've got your workbook, have that handy. But here are 5 things that you could do every single day. And I promise you, every day, every answer will be different. And so the first prompt is, today I smiled when? So when did you smile today? And what was happening? And so it gives you some reflection to say, today I smiled when? And for me, today I smiled when I saw the phone ringing, and it was Jeff. And as soon as I answered the phone, the first thing out of his mouth was, I love you. And it just made me smile. And I thought, that felt really, really good. And I was super grateful for that experience and moment. So when you think about that, it could be, today I smiled when I passed the neighbor's little boy jumping in the sprinkler and remembered what it was like when I was a kid. Today I smiled when, something happened in my work that was unexpected. Or today I smiled when I looked in the mirror and realized, I love myself exactly as I am. So whatever those prompts are, that's a great one in my opinion. And whatever those answers are, today I smiled when? And every day you'll find something different. And so you'll build a habit and pattern of catching yourself when you smile. And what I love about this, and it's making me think about a book that Ken Blanchard, one of my mentors, wrote, and it was called From Kids to Killer Whales. And it was all about catching people doing things right. And it was a leadership book. So how do we train kids to killer whales? And it was basically, that's what the title meant, was we give them rewards. They used to train the killer whales, they would give them fish. When we train kids, we give them rewards. I used to have a chore chart when I was a kid, and I loved it. I absolutely loved putting stars up. I loved that reward, right? That Pavlovian theory of human behavior. Catch people doing things right. So when you catch yourself smiling, you're catching yourself, you're building a habit of looking for more ways to smile. Second prompt. Today my heart was touched when. Today my heart was touched when. So wherever you're at in your day, you might be just starting it, you might be at the end of it, whenever you're listening to this, today my heart was touched when. And when you answer that question, you start to realize what touches your heart. And so today my heart was touched when I thought about my son. And I didn't have to have an experience around him, but my heart was touched when I thought about him as I was talking about when he was a baby and how much I loved him. And so I was explaining that. And I thought, oh, my heart was really touched. And so today my heart was touched when. And you can come up with, I'm sure, multiple ways. But if not, now you've at least got the question to be on the lookout. And most of us, we either do our gratitude journal usually first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening. And so if you're doing this, these prompts, you might ask yourself, you might say, well, Yedda, what if I just woke up? Well, you might challenge yourself first thing in the morning to think about, maybe you use the day before, or maybe you use the few minutes or whatever. If this is the end of the day, obviously you can reflect back on your whole day. It doesn't matter when you do these. You can use the language to remind yourself to call forth an experience or a moment of gratitude. So number 3, today I felt grateful when. Today I felt really grateful when I came into the studio and Robin had everything all set up and ready to roll. And I thought, this is so amazing to have team members and resources available who show up that help me shut up and sit down and do what I do, that help you to shut up and sit down and do what you do. So this whole space around today I felt grateful when. I also felt grateful when I reached in my pocket of my pants and found $25. And I thought, oh, I forgot when I went out to get ice cream, I left that money in my pocket. So it can be big things. It can be little things. Today I felt grateful when I caught myself wanting to be a little judgmental and attack myself, that I actually gave myself compassion and said, you know what, you're a human being. So you can do all different ways of finding answers on the internal landscape and on the external. And so then number 4, today I'm thankful for. And gosh, I don't know a day that I don't wake up and I'm not thankful for my health, my physical health, to wake up and be able to get out of bed and function without any type of medication, any type of support apparatus, any type of just negative issues going on with my body or my health. And I mean, if you don't have anything to be grateful for other than the fact that you woke up today and you are healthy, you are winning the lottery. There are some seriously suffering, sick people in the world that my heart goes out to. And so to be really thankful, for me, I always start with health. I'm absolutely thankful that when I wake up, I can spin around, put both feet on the floor, and stand up and start my day without any physical limitations or issues. And of course, then that obviously can branch out to my family is the same, and just, goes on and on. But you start catching those moments where you start to build gratitude. And one of my all-time favorite is number 5. It says, today was special because. And so what was special about today? And you can really look back and say, gosh, today was really special because. And, as I think about this, and I'm recording this episode and we're wrapping up, and really today is special because this is where we are taking the last few episodes of all of this coursework and recording all of it and putting a big bow around it. So this is a really special day for me. I have one little conclusion clip that I'm going to do after this episode and this lesson is done. But all the other stuff that's been recorded and everything that's there, we've got one more coming with Jason Redman, who's our actual, final episode in the series. But we've already recorded that with him just due to the nature of timing and trying to get him up here because he doesn't live in Richmond. So to be in a space today to go, wow, today's really special because I can look back and say, I learned a lot of stuff, but I also, hopefully, my goal was, and my intention was, I imparted a lot of that knowledge I've learned along the way, and I've shared that with people to help make something happen in the world that is greater, to serve something way greater than myself. And so these prompts are really here so that we can start to understand we work at gratitude just like we work at anything else. Now, you might know some people are kind of that natural Pollyanna, and they walk in and they got the smile like Willie did, or they're just always a half glass full person. maybe instead of attacking them or thinking, oh, too bad, I'm not like that, and attacking yourself, just realize they got taught somewhere to look at things in a different light. And now what you're looking at and how you're looking at things is you are looking in a way to find what's right. You're now cultivating the positive, what's working well, what is right, what is going well in your life. And it doesn't always have to be monetarily or physical, or it could be in your inner landscape. I'm thinking also about just speaking about my son and thinking about going to see him recently for his birthday. He's moved to the West Coast. And I remember it was a hard goodbye. And it's, one of those moments that we don't practice gratitude to act like nothing in the world is ever going to happen negative again. And there's never, ever going to be anything hard and painful again. You remember in mindfulness, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. It was painful. It was painful to say goodbye to somebody that I love more than anything in the world and know that I'm not going to wake up every day and see him and be a part of his life. At the same time, I'm grateful that he's in a place where he's happy. And so being able to be with that pain, gratitude allowed me to do that. I was grateful for our trip. I was grateful for him being in a great place. And the pain of the saying goodbye was able to exist because of the gratitude for all that we had been experiencing on that trip. And when I got to the airport and it was time to say goodbye, and I checked in the rental car and I went out to the gate and got into the airport all by myself. I went in one of the little restaurants and I just sat down and I just cried. And I cried because I thought, I am grateful for the trip, but I'm also human. And it's really hard to say goodbye to somebody that you love. And I let myself be grateful that I had feelings, and to be grateful that sometimes those emotions, they aren't always positive, but they're part of being human. And so this gratitude, as we cultivate it, it's another way of strengthening that container that mindfulness gives us to shut up and sit and hold all of our experiences. So I didn't have to go, dumping all my drama about the goodbye on anybody at the airport. I didn't have to text anybody. I wasn't, indulging in the emotionality of the pain. I was just grateful for all of my skills to shut up and sit down, for all of my coaching that I was able to give myself to say, you have an option here in this moment. You can go down a really dark path and you can go down a negative, remember that downward spiral on the emotional guidance scale. If you want to start thinking negative thoughts about, oh my gosh, this is awful. Why do I have to do this? Why can't I live closer to my son? All the negative thoughts, I was really tempted to go, well, is he going to be okay? What's life going to be like? Is he going to stay here forever? Is he ever going to come home? That's part of being human. When you all do this work, what I want you to hear is you don't stop being human. You just see and catch yourself in that moment, and you have a choice. So my mindfulness practice allowed that grief and that sorrow to be there. And then my gratitude practice allowed me to say, you know what? I'm going to actually focus on just as much positive and things I have to be grateful for as a lot of the unknowns and the fears that I'm sitting with. And so these prompts made me think about some of the funny things, like when did I smile when I was on the trip with my son? What touched my heart about being on that trip with him? And the more I thought about that, I thought, and I'm going to create more of those moments. They're going to come again, and they're going to come again, and it's going to be great. That's what we do in coaching. We pivot. And we are really careful, because if not, I could have gone down a really negative spiral and ended up in a total shit show and drank my way through the airport and got on the plane and came home and just talked about all of the awful things because I didn't get to stay there or he's not home. And I didn't do that. I contained the experience. I was able to be grateful. I sat there, I cried, I dried my eyes, I got on the plane. When I sat down, the gentleman next to me, he said, hey, so I'm curious, where are you coming from? What are you up to? And all I said, I was just been on a vacation in Bellingham, just north of Seattle. It's been really great. How about you? Where are you coming from? And my gratitude allowed me to know that I had enough of the experience. I didn't need to project it or vomit it or dump it onto somebody else to help them or have them help me work through my experience. And so that's why we talk about gratitude in this work. And that's why it's not always about that Pollyanna framing, like we've got to always be positive, even in your suffering. And I've mentioned this author before because he's one of my favorites. Viktor Frankl wrote the books called Man's Search for Meaning. And even in his most dire, awful pain and awful situation of Auschwitz, he would wake up and he wrote all about this he says, there's something called tragic optimism, that even in your deepest tragedy, you can still find gratitude. And he wrote in his book that when he was in Auschwitz, the way he survived was he was grateful for a bucket of dirty water with rotten fish heads in it that he got a few sips of every day, which was his sustenance, which was his food, his survival. And he said he had to learn to survive by being grateful for what he had, not for what he had, or being fearful of what he had lost. And I will say this, there is no way in the world I could ever even pretend to come close to that level of mental fortitude and gratitude. And I know we're all capable of amazing things as human beings. I look at that man and his writings as one of my greatest teaching tools, because if he could be grateful for that, then these prompts for me to be grateful really ultimately in the world that most of us are living in, it should be pretty easy in comparison. And so this gratitude, this cultivation of gratitude is so important. And we marry that, and we end the book in the chapter of gratitude going to this mountaintop so that we understand how to catch things that are going right in our life. How do we sit with those moments where we are really in deep, deep appreciation for everything that's going on. And again, back to the TED Talk and the image and the movie, and just, we protect what we fall in love with. And as we start to kind of come up to a wrap up here, and I'm also thinking about something, Rob and I always talk between the filmings and episodes. We were talking about the documentary, My Octopus Teacher, which I absolutely loved. If you have not watched it, I absolutely hands down recommend it. And it is such a great visual documentary of a gentleman who really kind of has this epic kind of breakdown in his life. And he goes back home to Cape Town, South Africa, and he literally gets in the water every day for a year. Now, of course, he's a filmmaker as well, and he does underwater filming. And so he's filming this relationship he builds with an octopus, and how this octopus became his teacher. So, I'm teaching you the moments and chunks of information from saints and sages from all over. Here's the deal. Existence is teaching us as well. Get out and go walk in nature and find things to be grateful for. The wind, the leaves, the frogs, the animals, the sky. In this TED Talk, he talks about we rarely look up at the sky. The sky is never, ever going to be the same on any given day as it was the day before. Never. So if you don't have anything to be grateful for right now, go outside and look up. And look at the sky. You will never see the sky again like it is right here, right now in this moment. And so I love that we're called into the beauty of nature is such a great teacher. So animals and the nature, kind of seascapes and landscapes. And I mean, just looking at the awe and the wonder and the beauty of existence itself is enough of a teacher for gratitude. And so we talk about that a lot, but I bring you into this chapter and take you to that mountaintop of gratitude so that you understand it's all around us. Everything you need is all around you and inside of you. What lens are you looking at it through? Are you looking at it through a gratitude lens, or are you looking at it through a lack and it's not really working lens? And so we learn to even be grateful for our suffering, is my point with Viktor Frankl's work. And so as I kind of begin to take this lesson to the mountaintop, we do have a few more episodes coming, and we're going to move deeper into gratitude. I have a wonderful, wonderful friend, Amanda, that is showing up on our next episode. She and I are actually moving through and talking about, I have a section in here on the 3 steps to actually nurturing awareness to gratitude, for mechanisms really to help you to go a little bit deeper into gratitude. She and I are also talking about gratitude from a different perspective. She actually called and asked if she could interview me as a female entrepreneur and a female leader in the community, and how gratitude comes into play for us as women, as entrepreneurs. And so we decided to combo the idea. So what's coming up on that is going to be me talking a little bit about those 3 components, and then we're going to have an interview for you all with Amanda. So it's really going to be a great episode to have those conversations prepared and done for you guys, so we can talk about that as women and be in a place of gratitude. But don't forget, no matter who you are, where you are, just even if you can't write it down, even knowing that you can catch things that are working well, you're laying new patterns of behaviors and new neural ways of thinking that will help you to know that even in moments of pain, you're creating your suffering by looking at what's not working, and gratitude allows you to pivot to what is working? What do you have to be grateful for? And that changes the trajectory of how you show up in the world, which then changes the trajectory of how people show up with you, because they pick up on that sense of gratitude. When you walk in a room, you shine brighter, your presence is bigger. And so as you get into this journaling and we go further in, just so you know where we've going, we got this next little episode coming up with Amanda, and then we're going to take you all the way to the mountaintop. And but I do want to share with you, there's this great poem that's right here in this section after the research. And I had to tell you guys all about the science and research behind gratitude, because that's who I am. But I wanted to end this episode with one of my favorite poems, and it's called U-Shaped Hole. Because there is a balancing act. Sometimes we do see things that are missing. And I'm not saying that we negate all of what's wrong in life and we don't ever look at problems. We actually look at problems to create solutions, but we don't stay stuck at the level of the problem. Gratitude says, I see a problem and I actually think I have a solution I could contribute to that. And that's kind of how I got into entrepreneurship. I was really good at seeing problems, and I was just really good also at finding solutions. And that's how gratitude shows up sometimes, is as a solution. I'm really grateful that I had this awful experience, but it showed me a way to contribute something to the world to actually alleviate or fix that problem or suffering, which is really how I see all of my work. And I see Shut Up and Sit as a solution to something that is missing. And it is a gratitude tool in and of itself. If you were to package it all up in one word, it teaches you how to go to a place deep within inside of yourself, to be grateful for who you really are and bring out your uniqueness and your wisdom out into the world. And so the poem that I have for you as we wrap up is by Tara Moore. She's one of my favorite poets. She's in lots of her stuff is in this work and in my book. But she has a tool, it's in the Tools for Wow section. But she has this poem called A U-Shaped Hole, Y-O-U, a U-shaped hole. And she says, sometimes the world feels inhospitable. You feel all the ways that you and it don't fit. You see what's missing, how it all could be different. You feel as if you weren't meant for the world, or the world wasn't meant for you. As if the world is the way it is and your discomfort with it a problem. So you get timid and you get quiet about what you see. But what if this? What if you are meant to feel the world is inhospitable, unfriendly, off track in just the particular way that you do? The world has a U-shaped hole in it. It is missing what you see. It lacks what you know. And so you were called into being, to see the gap, to feel the pain of it, and to fill it. Filling it is speaking what is missing. Filling it is stepping into the center of the crowd, into a clearing and saying, here, my friends, is the future. You don't have to do it all, but you do have to speak it. You have to tell your slice of the truth. You have to walk toward it with your choices, with your own being. Then, allies and energies will come to you like fireflies swirling around a light. The roughness of the world, the off-trackness, the folly that you see, these are the most precious gifts you will receive in this lifetime. They are not here to distance you from the world, but to guide you to your contribution to it. The world has and was making a U-shaped hole in it for you. In that way, you are important. In that way, you are here to make the world a better place. In that way, you are called. And I love that poem because gratitude is also about that U-shaped hole that you see, being grateful for all of life bringing you to identify the pieces that you fill in and that you fit to make the world whole. As you step into the wholeness inside of you, you bring that wholeness out and you step into the U-shaped hole that was created just for you. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode, and I can't wait to be there with you. I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Take care.
May you know goodness. May you know peace. May you know contentment. May you be